Hello everyone, Tess Thomas here with Clay County Historical and Arts Council. Welcome back to another episode of One-on-One with Clay County History. Today we are in Hayesville, North Carolina with Mr. Ronnie Smith. Ronnie, thank you so much for having us today.
Oh, thank you for being here.
We're just going to jump right into how your family came to Clay County. I understand it was your great-great-grandparents that came?
Yes.
And go ahead and tell us about that.
Okay. My great-great-grandfather came to Clay County sometime in 1841. He came to Clay County as a school teacher and later on became elected. Well, Clay County was not even a county at that time. Clay County, or this part of Clay County where I live, was part of Macon County. And over at town and on west was part of Cherokee County. But in 1861, Clay County was formed because residents here had to walk, ride a horse or a buggy or whatever, all the way to Franklin or to Murphy to pay their taxes, to get a license to be married, anything legal. You had to travel more than one day's journey.
A whole day in the buggy or on horseback. Yeah, wow.
Well, anyway, the residents petitioned the guy that was going to run for the House of Representatives to establish a county out of part of Macon County and part of Cherokee County. And that is how Clay County came into being.
Wow.
He got elected to the legislature. The bill was passed in 1861 at the beginning of the Civil War. And I've been told that I don't know how he got mail to find out that he had to ride a horse from Hayesville to Raleigh to pick up the charter for the county.
Oh my gosh.
That's 510 miles.
Oh my gosh. How long did that take? Months?
Well, I do not know. I have no record of how long it took.
Wow.
I guess that's why that I like riding horses even today.
You come by it honest, that's
but
right.
anyway, there was no motels, no hotels to stay in. He had to have one or two pack horses with his bedding, his camping supplies, cooking supplies. I would love to know how long it took him.
Right.
But anyway, and the sad part is, he got the charter in 1861, and it burned when the scallywags and carpetbaggers burned the courthouse in 1874.
Oh, wow.
But anyway,
That's a shame.
When the county was formed, he was a school teacher. Anyway, when the county was formed in 1861, in the first election, he was elected clerk of court. And that's really about all I know about him. You know.
And that was E.G. Smith.
Yeah.
All right, and so from there we go to your great-grandparents, John O. and Lomi Wood.
Yeah.
And what can you tell us about them?
Okay. My great-grandmother, Lomi, was born on Geesky Creek in the Shooting Creek area, and her father died when she was real young, and her mother married a Kitchens, and anyway, there was I forget how many kids. I've got a photo of her with her siblings. But anyway, she was raised on Shooting Creek, and when they married, they, of course, John O. Smith, he lived on Downings Creek here, and so she moved here, and she was a midwife. And I can tell you something very peculiar about her. She delivered babies all over Tusquity, Downings Creek, all the way down to the river.
Amazing.
Everything this side of the river.
She was the one that delivered them. That's awesome. Probably hundreds.
Have no clue. But I can tell you something else very interesting about her son. One of my great uncles.
Okay.
His name was Ronne Smith. He was a baby, and this lady on Tusquity was a Moor, and her father was a veteran of the Civil War, and this lady had a baby that was going to be born, and my great-grandmother went over to deliver the baby, and it could be 2 or 3 days' time when she left. Well, she had this infant son. She had to take him with her. When my great Aunt Nanny was born, they had a distinction. This is funny. They slept in the same crib at night together.
Okay, so
and
how
wound
they
up being married.
Oh, you're kidding.
Well, there was a show on TV. Marianne, I can't remember what the name of the thing was. Anyway, it was a film crew from New York traveled all over. I don't know if it's ABC, CBS, or whatever. Oh yeah, I've Got a Secret was the name of the.
I've Got a Secret. I think I remember hearing that.
Well, I've never seen it, but I've heard of it. Anyway, they contacted somebody, or somebody contacted them, and they were going to. A film crew was coming from New York to film it. Well, my great uncle Clarence died before they got all the arrangements made. But that would have been.
That was the secret. That as infants they slept in the same bed together, and however many years later they got married.
Yeah.
That is amazing, unbelievable. And that was John and Lomi.
Yeah.
And then talking about your grandparents.
Was their son.
Oh, okay. Which was your great uncle?
Yeah.
All right. So let's move down to the next generation. Your grandparents was Lawrence and Mila.
Yeah.
And what can you tell us about them?
Okay. I grew up, in their household. I mean, I loved to go there because of the food that I got to eat.
Grandma always fed you good.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But anyway, my grandfather, Lawrence, he grew up here on Downings Creek, and he and his brother, as teenagers, they left here and went to Colorado to work for a railroad, and they had a great uncle, and I was never acquainted with him, but anyway, he was some kind of a railroad executive, and so my great uncle Clarence and my granddad, they went as young men to Colorado and worked on the railroad. My granddad worked in the roundhouse repairing. Now, I don't know what Uncle Clarence done, but anyway, they were there for a couple of years, and so my grandfather, he had, I guess you'd say, fallen in love with my grandmother before he left. Anyway, he was out there a couple of years, and I have a postcard that he mailed to her, and it says, Mila, coming home to marry you is the only thing on it. And his name.
My heart! Oh, that's romantic. Coming home to marry you. That was his in-the-mail marriage proposal.
But anyway, and they had 2 children, my Aunt Velma and my father Jerome, and but anyway, my granddad, he ran a thrashing machine pulled by a steam engine because he learned how to work on steam engines in the roundhouse at the railroad in Levita, Colorado. But anyway, he also had a sawmill. He and one of his brother-in-laws had a sawmill together, and it was an awful steam engine power. And they logged with horses, mules, and oxen. And they used the oxen on the steepest ground, so if one got a leg broken, they had to kill it, they could eat it.
Oh, wow.
You know, and
Yeah.
they didn't want to put a horse or a mule on real steep ground. It'd get hurt because that was money.
Right.
The oxen were a whole lot cheaper. And
so that logging company, what was the name of it?
Smith and Cheeks.
Smith and Cheeks?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Still got checks.
Really?
Yeah.
That's amazing. I love this history. I love hearing this history.
And my grandfather, when Pease Extract Company bought Farses Creek Wildlife Refuge, this was years and years ago, he and my grandmother, they moved to where the Bristol camp was at, and I don't know how many years they stayed there, but anyway, my dad was born during that time, and he had to live with a couple of his aunts down on Jarrett Road to go to school. My Aunt Velma stayed on Farses Creek because she was old enough to go to school, and then eventually they moved back to Downings Creek. And that's about it on my dad as far as that goes. When he got out of, at the end of World War II, he was drafted, and you were drafted for the duration of the war. Well, when the war was over, he and my mom had got married when he was on furlough, and he got sent to Brazil. He was a control tower operator for the U.S. Army Air Corps just prior to it being U.S. Air Force.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Before it was even the Air Force?
Yeah.
Huh.
And he was in Brazil when I was born. He got sent there for 6 months, and this was right at the end of the war. He never saw me till I was 6 months old.
Oh, wow. That had been tough. Yeah. So how many siblings did you have?
I got a brother and a sister.
Brother and sister?
Yeah.
And you all grew up right here in Downings Creek?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so,
my brother Steve and he and I we dairy farmed together till I retired, and he went to work for Young Harris College.
So, where did you go to school? At Hayesville High School? Yeah.
I graduated in 1964.
Class of 64. That was before I was born. And so, let's come down to you and how you met your beautiful wife, Mary Ann.
The first day where she was 2 years younger than me, I was a senior. I was a junior when she came to Hayesville. Well, back at that time, there was a grammar school at Elf, North Carolina, in the Elf community.
Right, just down the road.
Well, Mary Ann's mother was the cook. She was the only person in the lunchroom because it was a small school.
Right.
And she came to the first day that she was to attend school on opening day in the fall. She was walking down the hall, and I was behind her. I came out of, I don't know what room, and I saw her figure.
It caught your eye.
And she had long black hair down on her shoulders. And I walked up behind her.
And grabbed her hair?
run my fingers through it.
Oh.
She turned around to slap me, and I said, I'm going to marry you.
That's an awesome story.
And I did.
And I did.
Yeah.
And so, how long did y'all date before you got married?
Well, we got married July 10th, 1965.
Y'all coming up on an anniversary.
I graduated in 64.
Right.
And we got married on July 10th. And see, she was a senior.
She still had to finish the school year.
Oh yeah, she went to school, and so our daughter was born. We like 4 days being married, 1 year when Lee was born, and
this Velma Lee, I'm assuming, was named
yeah.
after your great aunt.
Yeah.
Or that would have been
my aunt.
Your aunt.
My aunt.
Sorry.
Yeah. Well, anyway, the kids they had to go to the dairy barn from a very early age. Well, anyway, I think Lee was in the 5th grade, if I'm not mistaken, and I was drinking coffee, getting ready to go milk at 4 o'clock in the evening, or a little after 4, when the school bus ran. And I noticed she came up the driveway, and she was, really huffing and puffing. And so she came in the door, and I was in the kitchen. This house we built it 50 years ago.
Wow.
Anyway, she came in the door, and she said, "Where's Mom?" And I said, "I guess washing clothes," because we had 4 kids.
And that's what you did, right? Washing clothes all the time.
I hollered for Marianne. Marianne came. Lee folded her hand like this and said, "Mom, I want to ask you a question." Marianne said, "What?" "Am I illegitimate?" And see, Marianne said, "No." And she said, "Well, you and Dad hadn't been married. You had like 4 days being married when I was born." And Marianne said, "Well, how did you figure that?" "Well, we're learning how to use a calendar to figure out birthdays and anniversaries and everything. We got, and I still sometimes call her my illegitimate child. I mean,
right. But it was like in 4 days of being 1 year after you had been married.
And,
oh gosh.
But she couldn't figure out why.
But she come with like,
she was like, "Mom, am I illegitimate?" And
my gosh.
I mean, I had a sip of coffee. I liked this thing. I mean, we didn't have no video and everything. That would have been something to have.
Right? Yeah, to record that and have that. And then, so you have Dwight, and how much later did he come along after Lee?
Well, we had, in a little over 7 years, we had 4 kids.
Just right after another, wow.
Right after another. And Dwight was killed in a farming accident in 1990.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And see the photo up here of the...
On the left?
Lee is the girl,
uh-huh.
Dwight the son, and I've got a
and then the other 2 over here?
I've got a big charcoal drawing that a guy from Andrews done from that photo. Can I get up and show it to you?
Well, I'll definitely get pictures of it when we get done with the video part.
Okay.
I'll get pictures of anything you want to show us.
Okay. Well, anyway.
So after Dwight, you had 2 more.
Well, we got Andy and Stormy.
Andy and Stormy.
Andy, he works for Ivan Ray Ledford. He does construction work. And Stormy works for my nephew. And it's interesting why Stormy got that name. Right, because his given name is Eric. Yeah. Okay. Well, he was the last kid. And Marianne was pregnant. And we were expecting him to be born on a certain date. Well, lo and behold, we had a cloudburst came here in Clay County. we had in 24 hours, we got 17 point something inches of rain.
Are you
This is
kidding me?
recorded, yeah.
Wow.
There's a lady, she's deceased now, she had a rain gauge for TVA. Well, anyway, we had a cousin of mine and his wife, they were visiting here and knew that we were expecting to go any minute. Marianne had her bags packed, and it said in the cloudburst hit and it washed a patch of ground off up here on the Double Knob Mountain. Anyway, the creek got up, and I had a four-wheel drive truck, but our driveway got washed out. The water tile was gone. Marianne said, I feel labor pains coming on.
Of course.
And she just said, well, you better figure out how we're going to get out of here, because I'd done looked, you know, I heard the tile when it went out, I heard it.
Oh.
Anyway, it made a dam across. The tile had stopped up with brush and stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway, I come back in the house and I told Marianne, I said, I don't know how we're going to get you out of here. And so I got on the radio and called the sheriff's department, told Hartzell Moore, he was sheriff at that time. I told him, I said, you're going to have to come get me, Marianne. We've got to get across the creek some way. We've got to go to the hospital. She's beginning to have labor pains, and after 2 or 3 youngins, they don't last long.
Sure, it's faster each one. Yeah.
Anyway, I looked, and our whole driveway was paved at that time. It'd been washed out, you know, and I ain't never got it paved over. But anyway, our neighbor, Bud and Elizabeth Ash, they live next door in a double-wide trailer. And Bud had come out because it got all the way up next to where their double-wide was. The water was standing.
Wow.
And I said, we better figure out how to get Marianne on the other side, because the sheriff's coming to pick us up. Bud said, you know that table you helped me build? And I said, yeah. And we built it, a long table. It was 12 foot long. And he said, we looked, and the water had started going down, and there was pavement on both sides of the creek. And we looked at it, Bud said, I believe that we can take this table out here and turn it upside down and get it to fit.
Really?
And we had about 4 inches of pavement, about 2 inches on each side. When we turned it over, it landed perfect. I mean, the good Lord.
God's grace. That's an awesome story.
Anyway.
And she was just able to walk right across?
She had to walk across the legs. It had X.
Oh, gosh. So now she got to lift up her.
And she had a suitcase.
Of course, right.
Anyway.
Oh, my gosh.
Well, when we got to the hospital, and the 2 doctors that were there, well, they were the ones that amputated my hand when I got my hand cut off. But anyway, I've been acquainted with them, you know, the delivery of 4
right.
Well, 3 kids prior.
Before that, yeah.
Anyway, Dr. Nicholson, I told him I'd been a member of the rescue squad since 73, and had been to an emergency childbirth class. And I told him, I told Marianne to tell him, I didn't tell him, that I wanted to go to the delivery room and assist in the delivery. And this was unheard of.
Right. So it hadn't happened to 3 children before.
No.
But you wanted to see that 4th one.
Nobody went to the delivery room with their wife.
Nobody.
You know, I mean, nobody.
Wow.
And he said, I don't know much about this. And I said, listen, this is going to be my last child. So when Stormy's head was first coming out, and see, back then there was no sonograms and all this. You didn't know what a kid was going to be till it come.
Right.
Anyway, we got the head out, and he said, what are you going to name this kid? And I said, well, if it's a girl, I'll call her Ronnie. If it's a boy, I'll call it Stormy.
There you go.
And he sort of chuckled. Well, about that time, the birth happened.
Right.
Anyway,
And then the baby came.
His real name is Eric Scott Smith, but everybody called him Stormy because, and that's what it was called all through school, even today.
How many inches and how short a period of time was the rain?
We had a fraction over 17 inches.
And
that
how fast?
Was recorded in 24 hours.
24 hours. That is, I've never heard of such a thing.
We lost the corn crop. Our corn was coming up. This was in May.
Right.
Corn was growing. And it bore so much of it away, we had to haul up what was left and replant. And it was a horrible, horrible thing.
So, at this time, you were dairy farming still?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And what was the name of your dairy farm?
Downings Creek Dairy.
Downings Creek Dairy.
Well, it started as me and my dad, and then when my brother got out of high school, Dad was old enough to retire, so my brother Steve took my dad's place. And of course, the boys, they worked full time on the farm in the summer, and in the afternoons when they got in from school, they had to go to the barn.
It took a whole family to survive in those days. Everybody farmed, everybody had some kind of garden and had their own way to, keep themselves fed. It's amazing, kids these days, everything is so prepackaged food and buy it right off the grocery store shelf. They have no idea how it was to raise your own livestock. And did you have chickens or pigs or anything else, or just farming corn?
We butchered our own pork and still do. My brother's got Russian hogs in a chain link fence lot at his house. We still butcher hogs.
Right. But that's the way to go instead of having to go to the grocery store. So you eventually retired from the dairy farming, and then what did you do after that?
I worked for Kelly's Home Help.
And Kelly's Home Help, what did you do for them?
I was a repair tech.
For medical equipment? Medical equipment. And so you were the supervisor?
But I didn't want a job. When Walter Kelly asked me to come over there and work, I said, I don't know a thing in the world about medical equipment. He
right.
said, well, you worked on hay rakes and mowing machines and hay balers and tractors and dump trucks and everything. He said, I believe you can do it. Well, I went, and I didn't want a job. I said, I don't want a full-time job. I said, I'm retired. I've got beef cattle. I bought beef cattle when they sold the dairy cow, and I've always had horses. Anyway, he said, well, just come and we'll see how it works. And he said, there's another guy going to be working with you. And so I went. And I worked 3 days the first week. And he called me on Friday and he said, is there any way? And he was working, Richard was working full time. He had four locations at that time, one at Franklin, one at Murphy, the one at Hayesville, and one at Hiawassee. And he said, is there any way you can come in Monday? And I said, what do you need? And he said, well, I've got stuff for you to do. So I went, wound up working. I worked 3 days the first week. I worked 9.5 years.
Full time, 5 days a week after that.
So I got old enough to draw Social Security. I said, I am quitting this.
Done with that.
No more.
So you spoke a little bit about fire department and rescue squad. When did you start? Do you volunteer for that? Did you? And when did that start?
I joined in October of 1973.
No kidding.
Yeah.
And how long were you active in that, or are you still?
Well, I still go every once in a while to things. I've got a radio. I listen. I go to what I want.
So if the need is there, you still go to this day. That is amazing service. Thank you so much.
I was an EMT back in the 80s and the early 90s, and I got elected to be captain of the squad, and we furnished an ambulance to Tri-County Raceway every Saturday night.
Oh, wow.
And while I was captain, I had to go. I don't think I missed maybe 1 or 2 Saturday nights. And it came up time to renew my EMT certification, and I told Marianne I got a letter that it was time for me, to go renew it. I said, I am not renewing my certification. She said, why not? I said, when I leave as captain, I don't want to be told that I've got to go in an ambulance to the racetrack on Saturday night.
Right.
So I pick and choose what I go to now.
Right. Good for you. Yeah. Well, you deserve that after putting in that many years. My gosh. Okay.
Marianne and I are both part Cherokee Indian.
Are you?
Yeah.
Awesome.
One of my great grandmothers was a full blood. And
so not on E.G. Smith's side, but the other side?
On the Burrell side, on
Burrell?
my mother's side.
Okay.
Ida was
On
my...
Ida's, okay.
Ida's
Jerome.
my mother.
Jerome and Ida were your parents. So on your mom's side, maternal side, a great-grandmother.
Yeah.
And what was her name?
I don't know what her name was, but I can tell you where she came from.
Yeah?
She came from War Woman Creek in Rayburn County.
Really?
And she married a Burrell. And he brought the first sheep, supposedly, that come to Clay County out of South Carolina, drove them into Shooting Creek.
Oh my gosh, what a trip.
So, and they wound up buying property over where Jack Rabbit Campground is. That's where my brother was born, where the boat ramp is.
No kidding.
Yeah, and there's a Burrell Cove over there on the Jack Rabbit Trail, on the walking, hiking trail.
And that's named after
the
them?
bike trail. And, but anyway, and then Marianne's got a great grandmother on the Galloway side, wasn't it?
I think so.
Well, anyway, see, there was this area right here where we're at was owned by, you can go to the jail museum.
Mm-hmm.
There's a map about this long of Clay County, and it's got the creeks and the name of the Cherokee that were on it during the removal.
Right.
Well, Downings Creek was named after a man named Robert Downings.
Okay.
They were brothers, Robert and James Downings. They were part Indian and part Scotch. And according to what I've been told, in England, at the capital where the head of government is on 10 Downing Street. And according to what everybody in this area knows of history, a Downing man was in the British Army in the Revolutionary War. Well, when the war was over, he stayed in the United States, didn't go back to England. And he wound up coming into Virginia and married a Cherokee lady and wound up some way in Clay County.
Settling this part. Yeah.
In this part.
Yeah, generations ago.
And
interesting.
And at one time I owned part of the where his house place was.
Really?
I sold it back a few years
That's
ago.
really interesting.
Yeah.
I just love that.
But anyway,
old history.
we've got people in, a lot of people in Clay County are
Part Cherokee.
of mixed ancestry.
Sure,
not
because
Cherokee
how could it
blood.
not be? This was all Cherokee,
Yeah.
you know,
And
hundreds of years ago.
we've got a friend his wife has got more Cherokee in her than I have, and we were eating, and I forget how the subject of Cherokee came up, but anyway, my friend said, if I knew I had Cherokee blood in my veins, I'd cut my wrist and let every bit of the blood drain out, and I just had to grit my teeth. I mean, that
It's amazing
was
that they're
amazing.
Well, he was young
still
and,
so
young
prejudiced.
and
So much
ignorant at the
ignorance,
time.
exactly. It just amazes me that there's still such ignorance about
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
well, we got Marion and I've got a lot of different nationalities in our
Well,
background.
everybody does.
Sure, I think I'm
You
English,
know,
Irish,
everybody does.
and French Canadian Indian. I'm Blackfoot.
My
little
nephew did
tiny bit.
one of those DNA tests, and like Ronnie said, we'd always been told that we had quite a bit of Cherokee in us. And on his mother's side, she has more than I do, so he was supposed to get it on both mother and father's side.
Right.
Did the DNA test, it didn't show any.
You know what? I heard a story about that, and the reason being is a lot of the Native Americans will not give their blood so that they can use it to match.
You know, that
So
would
if
make sense.
they're not putting their blood in there, you're not going to
Then
match
there's
it.
not-
They didn't
yeah.
want anything to do with it, from what I understand.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and same thing. My
Because
sister
it
had
makes
hers
you
done.
wonder, well,
Right,
are
if
they
I'm supposed to
legit
have
or
that-
what's going on?
Right, and that makes total sense to me, because if there was some type of spiritual belief about
Yes.
putting your blood in, and they didn't want any part of that. So that's why you're going to find people that literally, that's why they have the ancestor rolls, the Cherokee rolls. Mr. Sam Beck, he's on the roll.
Yeah.
And
Well, Marion and our rescue squad captain told me when I joined.
And this was back in the 70s, I
He was the
guess.
secretary, and we had to pay $1 a month dues. You give the secretary $1 bill.
wow.
And they kept taking. I mean, this was back in '73.
Right.
Anyway, he said, I went to give him $1 one night after the meeting, and they said, Smith, they said, ain't you got Cherokee blood? I said, yeah. He said, well, that Parker girl that you married, sure to goodness she has. And I said, yeah, I think so. He said, well, they are going to close the enrollment in so many weeks or days. He said, you two need to go to Cherokee and get enrolled on
Right.
the roll. And we were young. You know, I was milking cows, trying to get more cows to milk and raising young and everything. And so 2 or 3 months later, I paid my dues again. And he said, Smith, did you go to the reservation? And I said, Mr. Carter, I ain't got time to fool with that. I'm raising young and milking cows. I'm
Right.
busy. Well, I regret it.
Let's talk about horses a little bit. So when was the first time you rode a horse?
Can't remember.
That young? You were that
I'm
young?
honest, I can't
Sure.
remember. I mean,
Just as long as you can remember, you've been riding horses.
well, when Dad had a workhorse that he ran with the milk cows.
Yeah.
And a lot of times in the evening, when I got into school, I would have to.
Sorry, your cat was in my bag.
Oh.
That was adorable.
Trying to get him out.
She made
That's why
herself right
there's a
at home.
box in there under the
That's adorable. I'm sorry, I
high
didn't
chair.
mean to
They
interrupt you.
love
That was
the
cute.
boxes and what have you.
I'm
but
sorry.
we had a horse that ran with the milk cow.
Right.
And a lot of times in the evening when I was getting the cows in at milking time, after I came in from school, I would catch, the mare's name was Dixie, and she'd come to me. I could catch her, get on her back and ride her behind the cows all the way to the barn with no bridle, no saddle, no nothing. I mean, she knew where the cows was
Right.
supposed to
She
go.
knew what her job was, so you
Well,
just had to get on her and ride. And so you were pretty young at that point, huh?
Well, yeah. I mean, I can't remember when I wasn't riding a horse.
Right, when you weren't. And to tie that into now, you are a trail guide, is that correct?
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, at Brasstown Valley Resort, I've been there 8 years. So, over 8 years now. And the trail rides consist, you can ride for 1 or 2 hours.
Okay.
And we've got 5 1/8 miles of riding trail.
Okay.
And if you ride for 2 hours, you cover all of it, the whole 5 1/8 miles. And sometimes I have one person have had as high as 16 on a ride.
Is it hard to manage having that many people? Are most people already used to being on horses? I mean, I imagine you have some stories to tell about that.
The majority of the people, many of them have never been on a horse before.
Wow.
Never in their life. And I give wore-out horseshoes to 3 different classes of people. First-time riders, wedding anniversaries, and birthdays.
And they get to leave the trail ride with a
They
horseshoe?
get to leave the trail ride with the horseshoe.
That's a really awesome gift.
Well, I cleaned 3 shoes up yesterday to take. I keep some
Right,
in
just
stock.
in case, right.
And my brother shoes horses, and then I go to Shiloh's stable and get wore-out horseshoes
Right.
there and get the nails
And you
out
just
of
collect them all.
them. Yeah,
And then just clean them up?
but I enjoy it. I've met people from literally all over the world.
I'll
because
bet.
people come to have conferences and stuff at Brasstown Valley at the resort, and a lot of times if it's a male group and they've got their wives with them, they'll send the wives down to ride horses.
To give them something to do while they're
Yeah.
at their conference.
And
Right.
sometimes some of the golfers, that come there to golf, they will do the same thing. But I get lots and lots of couples,
Right.
together.
That's
And
cool.
but I've
What an enjoyable job for
I've
retirement.
taken people on trail rides from all over Europe, South America. I've even had a lady from Guatemala not too awful long ago rode with me, and she said, "Have you ever rode bareback?" And I said, "Well, absolutely, I've rode bareback." She said, I was married before I ever sat in a saddle." She said, "I was raised on a farm in the mountains of Guatemala." And I've met people from Central America, really, I've met people from the island of Malta, in the
Really?
Mediterranean Sea.
Wow.
Well, one guy, he was a priest in the Greek Orthodox Church. I had 2 guys for 2 hours, and they didn't have no priestly collar on or nothing.
Right.
Anyway, we hit the trail and we got a big, tall sycamore tree. And a sycamore tree is unique in this area. It's the only tree in North America that sheds part of its dead bark each winter. And where it sheds is white. It looks like, right now, the sycamore tree that I'm talking about looks like one side of it's white, the other side's dark.
Right. Interesting.
Well, anyway, I got got these two guys around there, and I said, look over here at this tree. This has been 3 years ago.
Okay.
This time of year. I said, see that tree over there that looks like it's got part of white paint on it? And they said, yeah. And I said, you guys know what kind of tree that is? And they shook their head. And I said, either one of you fellas ever heard the story of Zacchaeus climbing the sycamore tree in the Bible? And both of them sort of chuckled. And I turned around, my horse turned around so I could look straight at him in the face. And I said, what's the thing? And the one in front said, he is the Greek Orthodox bishop of the island of Malta. And
so he probably certainly had heard that story.
Yeah, anyway, and that one said, and he is the Greek Orthodox bishop of Paraguay. And I thought, but I had a good time riding with him. I mean,
I'll bet.
These guys were, and what it was, they were having a world conference at Brasstown Valley at the resort of Greek Orthodox bishops.
A world conference in Brasstown.
Yeah.
Wow. Small world.
We had 42 executives from Volkswagen, part of them from Germany, the rest of them from the United States. Now, the reason I got the job over there at Brasstown, my brother-in-law, he done cooking over there, outdoor cooking in Dutch ovens for conferences and people that, and we do that, still do it every once in a while. But I'm no longer in the cooking part of it. I don't want no part of it.
Yeah, you just want to stay on the horses.
We had 42 executives one night came, and Keith told me, he said, you're going to have to come and hit me. He said, I've got to make, he cooks in the Dutch ovens. He's got 3. Peach cobbler and apple cobbler.
Yum.
And he said, you're going to have to take care of helping me make the coffee and keep enough for them. And they said, they're from Germany. And I said, well, they won't drink much coffee. They'll probably have to have beer because they have plenty of alcohol over there.
Right.
Anyway, they showed up on time, and they ate all the cobbler. Well, my sister, she called my cell phone and said, you tell Keith to bring me any leftover cobbler. There was no leftover.
There wasn't a crumb. I bet not.
You might have got a spoon of the juice in the bottom of the Dutch oven.
They love that coffee.
But anyway, yeah, and they didn't drink much coffee. They brought their own beer with them.
Right.
But anyway, every once in a while, I get called to take a group on a history walk or a nature walk. That's supposed to be part of my job if somebody wants it. And at opening day of trout season, either 3 or 4 years ago, I was supposed to take 22 Georgia House of Representative members on a history walk.
Wow.
At 11 o'clock in the morning. And this was the last week in March, the last Saturday in March. It was a cold, miserable day. I mean, it wasn't snowing, it wasn't sleeting, it was just mush ice.
Oh gosh.
So these guys had contacted 2 fishing guides on the Tacoma River to take them, all 22 of them, trout fishing at 7 o'clock in the morning. Now, I like trout fish. I'll show you a couple of trout fish before you leave.
Yes, please.
Anyway,
so they're supposed to go fishing at 7 and then be with you for the nature walk at
11 o'clock.
Okay.
Well, anyway, I went to the stable and I took 3 or 4 people for a 1-hour ride and came back and pulled my cowboy boots off kind of a political conference.
Right.
Anyway, 11 o'clock came and they didn't show up. And I was in the main entrance there waiting on them, and I know some of the ladies that worked there, and so I told one of them, I said, I need some coffee. So one gal that worked the front desk, she went and got me some coffee, and 11:30 comes, still no hikers. 12 o'clock comes. And they got tired of bringing me coffee, and I said, somebody has got to get a hold of the contact person. I want to know if one of them's fallen in the Tacoma River and drowned, or if there's been an accident, or whatever. Anyway, this one lady, I can't remember her name, I see her every once in a while. She came back and she said, here's Smith, your last cup of coffee. And I said, well, where's my hiker? She was the one that was going to do the calling. She's some kind of an inter-office person. Anyway, she said, well, I've got bad news for you. And I said, what? She said, your hikers wasn't properly dressed to fish in this kind of weather. And they got cold and wet and about froze to death. One of them knew a guy that owned a tavern in adjoining county.
Uh-oh.
And they went south and they drunk too much antifreeze.
Oh, no.
They can't walk.
They were not going to be walking in very far. Oh, my gosh. Yeah, I can imagine. It was not sleet or snow, just like slushy ice.
Oh,
and then they're in the,
It was a miserable day.
Wow.
But anyway, I went back down to the stable and done another ride sometime after lunch. But I never did hear from my hiker.
Right, they never did make it. Darn it. This has been wonderful, Ronnie. Thank you for sharing all these stories. Is there any other things you want
Ronnie, did you tell her about getting your National Farmers Award?
No, he has not.
No. Well, I've been hunting for a photo. Let's see. What was it? 66, wasn't it?
It was in, I think, October of 67.
Okay. FFA, Future Farmers of America. They have a system you go through. I took FFA or agriculture classes all 4 years in high school, and I was president of the local FFA chapter. Well, anyway, I wound up getting my state farmer degree.
Ronnie J. Smith will receive his American Farmer degree on October 11th in Kansas City, Missouri. Ronnie will be accompanied by his wife, Mary Ann, to the National Future Farmers of America Convention. This is the highest degree awarded in FFA membership. Ronnie studied vocational agriculture 4 years at Hayesville High School and is now in partnership with his father, Ronne Smith, who operates a dairy farm. The Smith farm is located in the Downings Creek community. Look at that young man.
And as far as we know, he's the only one in Clay County that's
ever received
it. Yeah.
That's a nice feather in your cap. Back to the horses at Brasstown Valley Resort. How many hours a week do you think you're trail riding? Is it a 5-day-a-week job or is it a 6-day-a-week job?
I'm only supposed to be there on Saturday.
Oh, okay. Only supposed to be 1 day a week.
But last Friday, I got called. I had to go in. It rained, fell a flood, last Friday all day. Well, I didn't get on the trail. We got the horses in. I worked all day on Saturday. Then Sunday, I had to go back in. Didn't have to go in at 10 o'clock, and I was home, I guess, by 4 or whatever. But I only want to do it 1 day a week.
So,
but when somebody has got a doctor's appointment, funeral to go to,
sure,
I don't mind
you'll
that.
cover for them. It's basically just 1 day a week. Do they offer it only on weekends? I guess I can just look it up on the website and put that information in there for any of you watching that want to go check out and do a trail ride locally. I'll link that information into our interview.
And
Well, I would love to do that in the future. I'll see if I can't do that this summer.
But see, these horses have to be maintained on the property.
Of course.
And we have to buy feed for them. We have to buy hay for them.
Mm-hmm.
They have to be checked by a vet every 90 days, given a physical. They have to have shoes on both front feet, or they don't leave the barn. And by the time you get a farrier's expense,
Sure.
for feed and everything,
The overhead's
you're
probably
talking
pretty high.
$1,800 a year to
Wow.
maintain a horse.
How many horses do they have?
Well, there's 21 there.
Wow. That's awesome. And then you have horses here. Did you say you had a mare and
Got a mare and a mule colt here, and then over where my brother lives, we've got 3 quarter-horse colts and 9 mares.
You must have a big spread over there.
Well, him and my sister own it. They've got 76 acres. But
Oh,
part of
amazing.
it's mountain land.
Amazing. Well, Ronnie, I really want to thank you for sharing your story with us today. I know my viewers are really going to love it. Is there any other stories you want to tell us today before we wrap this up?
Nothing I'm thinking of.
Well, we're going to leave it at that then. I just want to thank you all for tuning in again. Please don't hesitate to check out all of our social media platforms. We are on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. And our website is clayhistoryartsnc.org. And for these one-on-one with Clay County History interviews, you just click on that one-on-one tab. I appreciate you all tuning in again, and we will see you next time. Thank you so much.